This video will show you the procedures to implement a peer stimulus preference assessment. Before you start the assessment, set up by removing unnecessary items from the area of assessment. You do this to make sure that the client is not distracted by other items and will not attempt to grab items that you are not assessing, such as your phone or a water bottle. After setting up, present two items about 1 foot from the learner. After presenting the items, deliver the instruction to pick one.
Pick one.
And allow 5 seconds for the client to make a selection. Then, remove the item not selected before taking data. Before taking data, you should remove the item that was not selected, because if the client has access to it, she might attempt to grab it, and this might interfere with the results of your assessment. After the client selects an item, allow her to play with the item for 10 seconds or wait until the edible is consumed. You give the client only 10 seconds to play with the item because you want her to have access to it for a short amount of time to avoid satiation. If the client tries to select more than one item, block the attempt and represent the trial.
Pick one.
If the client does not select an item within 5 seconds, terminate the trial. To make sure that you are conducting a peer stimulus preference assessment correctly, your supervisor might use a performance monitoring tool like the one shown here. To refresh your memory, a performance monitoring tool is used to list all the steps necessary for you to perform a particular task correctly. On this section are all the steps that you need to perform to conduct a peer stimulus preference assessment. On this section, they will mark whether you performed the step correctly or incorrectly. If you perform the step correctly, they will mark a 1. If you perform the step incorrectly, they will mark a 0. And if there was no opportunity to perform the step, they will leave a blank. And on this section, they will mark whether you completed the whole trial correctly or not. If you completed all the steps correctly on that trial, they will mark a 1. And if you perform any of the steps incorrectly, they will mark it 0. Now let's look at a few examples of how to use this performance monitoring tool to collect data on the RBT. Okay, the table is clear, so he gets a 1 for that step. He presented the items about 1 foot from the learner, so he gets a 1.
Pick one.
Okay, he also delivered the instruction to pick one. He allowed her 5 seconds to make a selection. Good. He removed the unselected item before collecting data. Alright, he allowed her 10 seconds to play with the item, so he gets a 1 for that item. He performed all the steps correctly, so he gets a 1 for that trial. Notice that I left items 7 and 8 blank because there was no opportunity to perform these steps. Okay, now we're on trial 2, and he gets a 1 for presenting the items 1 foot from the learner.
Pick one.
Good, he delivered the instructions to pick one.
Pick one.
Very good. He blocked attempts to select more than one item and represented the trial, so he gets a 1 on step 7. Very good. He allowed her 5 seconds to make a selection. Please notice that we are still in the same trial. Good. He removed the unselected item before collecting data. Okay. He allowed her 10 seconds to play with the item. Very good. He performed all the steps correctly, so he gets a 1 for that trial. Moving on to trial 3. He gets a 1 for presenting the items 1 foot from the learner.
Pick one.
Good. He delivered the instruction to pick one. She did not make a selection within 5 seconds and he terminated the trial, so he gets a 1 for step 8. He completed all the steps correctly again, so he gets a 1 for trial 3. In the next section, you will practice collecting data on the RBT. Make sure you have your performance monitoring tool ready.
Take one. Okay. Take one.